And we're back at Gully to Gully. I've got the same colleague with me with a slightly different name.
Well,
I'll
yes,
just let
on
him explain
popular
that
demand.
off the
I
bat.
mean, on popular demand, I feel obliged to address this comparison. I mean, it's nearly on every video now that people are saying that I'm Vivek Ramaswamy's doppelganger. I have to say, and I have to confess, until May 2024, I hadn't heard this comparison at all. And then in June, I went to a wedding, an Indian wedding in Spain, and I had three people at completely distinct times, different sets of families, who said to me that I looked just like Vivek Ramaswamy. And at the time, I was like,
There you
"What?"
go.
So even in real life, I've got it. I've got the pads, and I asked my wife; she doesn't see it, and I personally don't. But clearly, I'm missing something. So here you are. From now on, I'm gonna be Vivek. Obviously, can't take his full name for obvious reasons, but there you go.
All right.
Um,
So those who thought we were ignoring your comments, there
no,
you
no.
go.
But the point I make is, I am so glad that people are focusing on what I say rather than what I look like. That is the best takeaway that I could have asked for. So thank you.
Right. So there's that. That's addressed straight off the bat.
Straight
Well
off.
done for that. Moin, not Vivek. So lots to cover already. I mean, we did an episode a couple of days ago, but so much has happened. We kind of brushed over it in our previous episode when we were doing our cricket update and said that, barring anything miraculous, India, Bangladesh, the second test would have been a dead rubber. But of course, this is Indian cricket and miracles happen. I mean, scoring almost 300 runs in 35 overs is nothing short of a miracle. And then Bangladesh doing what they're doing is, I mean, they did kind of like a Pakistan 90 for 3 and then 95 for 7 or something like that. And then
It was
collapsing to
all
defeat.
like, just after we stopped recording on, a couple of days ago, I had a feeling that I've jinxed it. That we have jinxed it here, and actually India are going to pull off, one of those, brilliant day five victories. It reminds me of the Australian juggernaut in the mid to late 2000s. I remember they were in a couple of times in a position like this, and they just literally found a way to win it on the last day. And I just felt like I had that feeling that we were going to be licking our wounds. And look, I mean, it all starts and ends with Rohit Sharma. I don't think we can say enough about the sort of leading by example mentality that he's brought to the team, right? I mean, it helps that he opens the batting, but like the way he literally pounced on, the Bangladesh bowling, he six after six after six. He only scored like I think 30 odd, 40 odd, but it was just the impact. It set the tone, right? Which is why it's getting so much airtime across various podcasts and the commentators themselves. And everybody just contributed, right? Once
Yeah.
India scored that, you I had a feeling, and I was pretty confident then that India were going to win. Bangladesh were going to capitulate on a day, 4 or 5 wicket, and it'll just be too much, right? I mean, unless it rained again, it was going to be too much, right? With Ashwin and everybody, in full form, India bowling at home, right? Back in the day, I'll just make a point here. Back in the day, whenever you thought of home advantage, you thought from the batter's perspective. You thought that, oh, it's because the bounce is different, right? Low bounce wickets in South Asia, spinning, turning, low bounce wickets, whereas in Senna conditions you had pace, bounce. In New Zealand you had extra, swinging conditions. England also swing and seam, especially with the Duke's ball. But if you notice, the narrative is always on from the perspective of the batter, that
Yeah.
the batter getting acclimatized and used to the various conditions, when to go on the front foot, when to go on the back foot, because it's obviously different in different sort of geographies, right? So, but I think India have made that conversation about bowling. They know how to bowl at home, right? Like they know they have the perfect bowling resources, and not just that, they use it so well, right? And the reason I say that is because you can see them using it so much better than the oppositions, even an
Yeah.
opposition team like Bangladesh that have good spinners, right? Not the same quality as Ashwin, but still the difference in skill is less than the difference in the actual performance that you see, in India, right, between home and away teams. So they
Yeah.
just know the right lines, right lengths, just the precise spin that they're going to get on each wicket. And it helps that India is such a diverse country where, they find new venues to host test matches that
Yeah.
local, for away teams just don't have a clue.
Yeah. And just lastly on that, I think, we have more generalist comment. We talk about intent of other teams and how they perform, and you can always have the intent. England, obviously, with their baseball mentality, do that a lot. But sometimes the execution or the skill isn't there. Whereas in this case, you saw a perfect balance of or blend of fantastic intent. Rohit Sharma first two balls, sixes, but also intent, right? And it was very easy for them, when they lost 4 or 5 wickets, that they could have gone in their shell and be like, okay, let's just bat it out and see how far we go and hope for a win and then the last day. But they were aggressive. They were like, okay, we'll get to 50 ahead, we'll declare, have a crack at them, take 2 wickets. So it makes a big difference where you have the intent, but also the skill to back it up.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and it's also just
Sharma,
the fact.
Kohli leading from the front.
Yeah, and also you made a good point because Rohit Sharma actually even said that we were prepared to lose 10 wickets.
Yeah,
We were prepared. Like we were very clear in our mind, and that having a clear mind actually brings results,
yeah,
even if it ends up. Even if it's the more aggressive mindset you take, it's usually the indecision and hesitation that brings about wickets and
yeah,
collapses. But it was
yeah.
just clear, and
And
yeah, it's great.
yeah, specifically someone like KL Rahul, right, who's been trolled a lot in the media, who could have easily just shut up shop and be like, okay, I'll pay for a 55, whatever. But he went at it. Um, played with very good strike rate, got the runs, but also in the end got out, trying to hit out. So again, that just shows it's selfless cricket. I know again to draw parallels. Some teams that would have just gone in their shell, and a couple of batters would have played for their 65
Yeah.
not outs and probably not even gotten there. But yeah, overall, I mean, fantastic performance. As surprising as it may have been 2 days ago, it's not that surprising. If you look at the context of it and how India have been, if they've been phenomenal. So well deserved win to them. And that kind of pretty much seals their place in the World Test Championship final for the third time in a row.
Third time lucky, hopefully
Um,
for them, but let's see.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But now moving
I
on
think
to
it's.
the more,
I'll just make. Look. I mean, I do feel for India sometimes because the finals in the past and in this sort of cycle as well will be in England. When you're playing a Senna team, you would feel like that natural advantage is more with them, and it's one that I've thought a lot about, but you can't help it, right? Because you can't. Wherever you play, it will benefit one team over the other,
yeah,
right? And obviously, Lords, the home of cricket, hasn't yet hosted a World Test Championship final. It was the Oval last time. I can't remember why. Was it because they were doing some works to Lords or something
yeah, probably that. And then before that, it was Southampton because of
due to COVID? Yeah,
yeah,
COVID is easy to create a bubble there, right? So now it's at Lords. I just feel like there's always that slight disadvantage if India were to play a team like Australia, which is most likely there. Do I think it should be a best of three? I'll answer that now. No, I don't. Right? Just like a final in a World Cup is not a best of three, right? In a one day. In fact, there's bigger argument to having a 1 day or a T20 game as a best of three because it's only done over 1 day, whereas a Test match in itself has that natural hedge because it's played over 5 days. So it accounts for the fact that you may have one bad day, but you have other days and other innings to make up for it. Whereas so if the argument is, oh, you could have a bad game or a bad day, that's more pronounced for limited overs. And you couldn't even think of doing that, right? Because it just goes against the very essence of a World Cup, right? And a knockout game. The same is true for Test cricket, right? And the argument is even weaker due to the fact that it is 5 days. So just to answer that, because I know there are lots of people who think that. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, that fair enough. And look, it's going to be, yeah, like you say, most likely India, Australia. Sri Lanka have a backdoor chance. So you never know. India probably might prefer to play them, but to be
I mean,
honest,
absolutely. Yes. I mean,
to be honest, this time, yeah, I mean, given the way India is playing, I think they can probably even beat Australia. But anyways, let's see. From Rohit Sharma's brave captaincy to issues across the border again to Babar Azam and no captaincy. So the news obviously coming in late last night. I mean, that was the most bizarre thing. It came in at like around Babar Azam posted on his Twitter, Instagram, a statement that he's no longer white ball captain, stepping down. But it was posted at like midnight Pakistan time, which was really weird.
yeah.
Unless he's in New York or something, which I don't think he is because he was at this connection camp or whatever they were having in Pakistan. So timing wise, it was a bit strange, but I guess a lot of the things now make sense around why he wasn't the captain in the Champions Cup and all of that. But yeah, I mean, it's not a surprising decision in my point of view. It had to happen. I'm surprised it's taken this long for it to happen. It should have just happened straight after the T20. Could have happened straight after the T20 World Cup. But anyways, at least it's happened, and yeah, I think in isolation, I think it's a very good decision.
I completely agree. I think it is the right decision. I think we all expected it, but part of us was worried that Mohsin Naqvi or whoever's in charge will not do it, given the recent change to bring him back in. But the one thing, look, I think there's not much to praise about the PCB at this point in time. But I think the one thing that I'll praise Mohsen Naqvi or whoever the people around him for is there wasn't any ego in this decision making, right? Mohsen Naqvi, like previous chairmans, and the bar is so low that I'm even saying this,
Yeah,
would have let their ego get in the way and said, no, 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 I've just appointed him. Removing him would accept my part in the T20 World Cup debacle. Removing him would just be a way of me accepting my mistake, right?
yeah,
And in Pakistan, that's something that doesn't sit well with a lot of bureaucrats and whoever, people in positions of authority, right? Accepting my mistake to the public is the last thing you want to do, even if it comes at the expense of national performance. So I like that this is another way, implicit way of him accepting his and owning up to his mistake, right? And saying, you know
yeah,
what, brought him in, didn't get the desired results. Hindsight, probably a wrong thing to do, obviously, which is why you're removing him 6 months in with no games after you know
yeah,
the T20 World Cup, and move on to a new chapter, right? Owning up to his mistake, even though he won't say it. I think there is a slight praise there, for what it's worth. Now, the
yeah,
second thing is, look, I agree. I personally think the reason is, Gary Kirsten, I think, probably broke the news to him in this camp of theirs, um, that he was not being considered, especially for the, T20 captaincy and potentially also, I mean, both limited overs captaincy. And I think Babar did the right thing and resigned before he was sacked, right?
yeah,
Um, and look, the writing was always on the wall, right? I'm surprised the resignation didn't come just before the Champions Cup so that people could focus on his batting and stop talking about why he wasn't made captain. A part of me thinks that I think Babar was still hopeful that because he hadn't received an ultimatum, there may be a small chance he still keeps the captaincy if the other captains aren't that convincing.
yeah,
Again, problem there that Babar Azam, I mean, this lack of self awareness across this player group is
yeah,
next to none. I have not seen it. With Shaheen Afridi's comments about workload management, which I explained in the previous episode, and now a part of me thinking Babar Azam was still, you know, hoping to hold on because he
mhm,
didn't resign straight away. It just, for me, that lack of self awareness. I hope he develops it because it's needed for his batting and his fitness.
yeah,
But whatever it is, it is the right call. And who, I think we'll come on to talk about who.
yeah,
But my big question and the lingering question will always remain: Babar Azam has cited the workload of and the pressures of captaincy and affecting his batting. These same reasons applied exactly a year ago, or just under a
Yeah.
year ago, when he was removed. Why did he accept the captaincy again? There is absolutely no difference. Why was he greedy and accepting the captaincy at the expense of just spoiling the player unity in the team? Right. The only difference is his out of like his lack of form wasn't as pronounced of an issue then, because he just had one bad series against, well, actually it was before his bad series against Australia. His ODI World Cup was okay. He had a few decent 50s, whereas now it's very clear and it's all over. Anyone who's analyzing Pakistan cricket, that Babar Azam is woefully out of form and perhaps even
Yeah.
out of the big 4 5.
I mean, not perhaps. I mean, he's definitely out of that
He's
reckoning.
definitely is.
But look, I think the only good thing to come out of this, and I kind of agree with all your points, and I think when the captaincy was reoffered to him, I think again for any other player it would have been, it's difficult to turn it down, right? When someone comes to him like, "Do you want to be the captain of Pakistan?" I think he just couldn't say no, and then that's why he took it on. Um, was he greedy? Maybe a little bit. Was he a little self-centered in that approach? Probably. But anyways, he made that decision.
Fair
But the
play.
only thing the only positive that's come out of all of this is the process by which Babar's announced it. It's not leaked in the media or something. I think the first time most of us or everyone kind of heard about it was through his own announcement personally, right? Which is in a way it's a positive. Maybe he did it in the middle of the night because of that. He was afraid of it of it leaking the next morning or whatever. But I think
I
usually
think,
all these
yeah.
things get leaked in, and especially the PCB and their kind of insiders are notorious for all these random leaks, right? So I think in a way, from that point of view, it was good that it came straight from the horse's mouth. No controversies, but again, more questions, and as you mentioned, the real question now is who next. And I just
It's not
hope
Shadab Khan.
exactly they don't go by the same formula of PSL captains winning captains and just, oh, Shadab Khan won the Champions Cup and let's just make
And
him
the
captain.
PSL, he's a clear winner, even though he's not really, starting 11, but sure, but no, I hope and I pray that it's not, and it's not even Shaheen Afridi, and I think it won't be. I think it's going to be Mohammad Rizwan, is my guess. But a part of me thinks, and maybe it's my hope, that I think I look, if Shan Masood had a better start to his Test captaincy, I think he would also be in the running. I know he doesn't yet have a place in the 11, but there is an opening because Abdullah Shafiq is woefully out of form and Imamul Haq is quite unfit. So there is a question there, although there are quite a few youngsters who have done well in the top order in the Champions Cup. So I'm not sure, given the emergence of youngsters plus his own record in Test cricket, which I don't think is fully his fault, will probably mean that Shan Masood will not be given
Yeah.
the mantle. I think it's going to be Rizwan. Personally, a small aspect of me thinks that Rizwan may be given the one-day captaincy, and a young player like a Muhammad Haris, or someone, you know just with a with a more refreshing or a new vision comes to captain T20s. Right, that's just a thought that I had. I don't personally like the idea of three captains because, especially for a team like Pakistan, where too many, how's it? What's the famous line? Too many cooks spoil the broth. Right. That's a very. If ever there was like an analogy that showed how true that was, it's Pakistan. Because too many decision makers, too many former captains. Remember, there was a time when we had an 11 that had like seven former captains. Like you had Shoaib Malik, Muhammad Hafiz, and like
Yeah.
nearly everybody was a former captain except maybe Fakhar Zaman and all, and everybody was going up to Babar Azam. I remember Safraz Ahmed played one game in the middle, and everybody's going up. And when you have all these former captains, or in this case, captains in other formats, it just creates one, confusion and lack
Yeah.
of lack of clarity and direction, and two, this whole power struggle, which you want to avoid. So I rather that there is a united limited overs captain, and certainly maybe appoint a young player as vice captain, and for once use the vice captaincy correctly, right? Someone who's young, who isn't really competing with the captain, but rather a successor to the captain. There's a difference, and age is the real factor there. So I would go for Rizwan as captain for both, and maybe make Haris your vice captain in T20 cricket if you see him as a future leader. Because that's how I do it. I don't know what you have to say. I mean, I know it is compelling to have a fresh new leader in T20s, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think look, the problem is there isn't, and Haris is part of that, right? Muhammad Haris, not Haris Rove. Like
So I said
he
Mohammad
wasn't.
Haris. Did I say Haris?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, Muhammad Haris. I know. I'm just saying because, well, even Haris Rove, I don't think Muhammad Haris was not even in your T20 squad, right? So it's very difficult. It would be a very Pakistan thing to do to just parachute him back in as captain, but it just wouldn't make logical sense, to be honest. Yes, he was captain in the Champions Cup and everything. His own performance wasn't that good, but I don't know. I think Rizwan probably is the most logical option, and it has to be him for both T20 and ODIs. Although I won't be surprised if they go with Shada for T20s and Rizwan for ODIs. I think that might be the only thing that they'll consider. I don't think they'll go brave with someone like a Mohammad Haris or someone. The problem is there isn't anybody who's chomping at the bit, so to speak, right, to take up that captaincy role. So
And
I
what
don't
about,
think so.
and you definitely don't think Shan Masood either, right?
No, I don't. I mean, again, he's not part of either squad, right? So it's pretty difficult
Yeah,
to
so
get
I think
him.
you're right. I mean, it's just, I mean, Shadab Khan, please, please, please. Again, he isn't.
Yeah,
I know he played your last the T20 World Cup, but I think there were so many question marks on his form. I have to
yeah,
say he's got an excellent PR team. I know we criticize that, oh, it's as if he's won the World Cup. He even walked like Lionel Messi, and Rohit Sharma to collect it. And in my head, I'm like, what? I mean, what a whack job. But some of that works, as far as internal wranglings are concerned, because you're just
yeah,
building yourself up so that you don't go unnoticed, right? So people notice you. Even though people like us will criticize him, there'll be others who'll be like, "Oh wow, yeah, he's actually the most accomplished," and people in the PCB, will notice this, right? So I think
yeah,
that's why he's done it. He's got his eye on it. But uh, it would be really sad because
yeah.
I know. I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm still
his performances, his international performances, don't deserve it.
don't
Yes,
justify.
he's the captain, winning captain of both your domestic white ball tournaments, but that shouldn't be the only criteria. His form has been woeful, right? So again, for
And he
me, I don't
needs to
even think he's
rediscover that form in international cricket without the burden of captaincy, right? I know he
true.
was your previous vice captain. I'm not doubting that. He was your previous vice captain, for those who don't remember, in the limited overs formats. So he was from being such a vital cog in the team, a 360-degree cricketer, excellent fielder, which he still is, useful lower order batter, and and a very good spinner back in the day when he used to actually take wickets and curtail runs. But now he does nothing except a good fielder, right? Surely someone, and
Yeah,
the good thing is Gillespie and Kirsten have a say in this. So I'm hoping well, in this case, Gary Kirsten.
yeah,
I'm hoping he can see the wood for the trees. But anyways,
yeah,
that's that. Um, Speaking of the conundrums of Pakistan cricket in the limited overs game, let's just move on to Pakistan's next test assignment. Right, it's the Test series. England arrived in Multan. Um, you know, Gillespie had a disappointing start to his coaching career, although not fully his international coaching career. Not fully his fault, I like to say, because he was just new in the job. But he really needs to make this series count. It's at home, but it's against England, a team that beat you 3-0 not too long ago at home. So it'll be quite difficult. Um, it'd be good to get your views, Ayed. I mean, I'm going to start with the question I should have at the end, but I'm guessing it's going to frame the discussion is, where do you see this series ending?
yeah. I think we. I think we're long enough into the videos that the people who've stuck around so long deserve to know the answer straight away. So yeah, it is going to be England 3, Pakistan nil. I I mean, it's after losing to Bangladesh, I don't see any hope in this Pakistan team. Although the only silver lining, or the only hope that I have from Pakistan, look, Pakistan squad is pretty much the same that lost to Bangladesh. I don't see anything exceptional from there. Maybe they'll learn a few lessons and hopefully have a change in mindset or whatever that might help. The only thing that gives me some hope is the England bowling attack is completely new. I think Rehan Ahmed and Jack Leach, I think, have been the only ones who were part of the previous squad in the bowling. That being said, I think Pakistan are notoriously bad at giving away wickets to new bowlers. So I think Shoaib Bashir probably is going to get a 6-4 in the first game. But yeah, that's the only silver lining with although Gus Atkinson's had a phenomenal start in in home conditions mainly. So I do think that that's the only thing that Pakistan could benefit from is a lot of the England bowling will be playing in Pakistan for the first time. But then if the Pakistan bowling end up conceding 450, 500 runs every day, that probably isn't going to make a big difference. So, but yeah, I still think it's going to, given Pakistan and how woeful they've been and how their batting is prone to a collapse pretty much every time on the third or the fourth day, that England
Yeah,
will
and
probably
look, I feel
win
really
this.
bad for Shan Masood because that means he will have gone
8
eight
nil.
test matches without a win, right? His first eight test matches without a win as captain. I think that would I can't remember the exact record, but it's going to be pretty high up there, and especially given that five of your test matches were at home, two of which against
Yeah.
Bangladesh. I think it would be quite unforgivable, right, at that point in time. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree it's going to be 3 0, but I have to say, it's as if Shan Masood, despite his good intentions, it's one of those things where sometimes you have to agree that intentions alone aren't enough. Right? This is why there's been this lingering debate where is Pakistan's problems. I mean, are Pakistan's problems due to lack of skill or lack of mindset and intent? But I think Shan Masood's record speaks for itself. He's probably the most well-intentioned person you'll meet, right? He does the
Yeah.
right things, he says the right things, he is aggressive. You can see it in his own batting, but he still has this abysmal record. And you have to say that the team he has and his own ability as well to a large extent are just not as good as other teams, right? It's just a
Yeah.
shortage of skill, right, and talent. So
Yeah.
Well, look, I think there's a difference between skill and talent. I mean, you can say that Pakistan has a lot of talent. You can even say some of these players have a lot of talent. But to convert that talent into skill requires a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, dedication, and most importantly, and that's the one thing we're lacking, consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency is what's lacking. That's what converts talent to skill. That's what we don't have. I agree with everything you've said. Um, in terms of Pakistan's bowling, I think, look, batting, I think they're not going to change much. Question of whether they drop Abdullah Shafiq. I think that's just the only question. But
I
I
mean, they didn't pick Kamran Ghulam at least for the
exactly.
first test. I mean, they didn't make like they picked Herrera, but not Ghulam. It doesn't really make sense.
I think they're
Um,
going to go with Abdullah
yeah,
Shafiq and give him another
yeah,
run.
for sure.
I think just on the bowling, it's a bit of a question, right? I think the bowling attack will look something like Naseem Shah. Um, uh, um, uh, uh, what's that?
Shaheen,
I'm blanking. No,
Mir
not
Hamza,
Shaheen. I
Mir
hope
Hamza.
it's not Shaheen. Mir Hamza. I hope I have the
Mm,
same first name as him. How could I have forgotten? Mir Hamza, Naseem Shah, Mir Hamza, and Amir Jamal. I think will be the thing. Will be who will play. Look, the question is who is the fourth bowler? Do they go with a spinner or do they go with an extra pacer?
I think they'll probably go with spin, right? Because they've got Abrar Ahmed and the youngster Noman Ali in the squad. So
Yeah, I mean they'll probably
look.
go with
I
the
think
Brown
again,
Ahmed.
look, just for clarity's sake, in my opinion, the 1 to 11 is going to be Abdullah Shafiq, Sam Ayub, Shan Masood 3, Babar Azam 4, Rizwan 5, Saud Shakil 6. No, or is
Other
it
way
the other
around.
way
Yeah.
around? Yeah, other
Yeah.
way around, yeah. I think they will go Salman Ali Agha 7.
For sure.
The only question is whether Amir Jamal comes in at Amir Jamal probably at 8, Naseem and Mir Hamza 9, 10, and I think Abrar. I think that'll probably be the 11.
Yeah.
And they should bowl Sam a bit more as your third spinner. I think that would be fine. Or if they go with Noman, then maybe they drop Salman Ali Agha and play Amir Jamal. Uh,
Nah.
that
I
potentially
just
is the
don't see
other
Ahmed
option.
Jamal at 7. I know Noman Ali can also bat at 8, but no way. I don't
Yeah.
see Ahmed Jamal at 7 at all. I mean,
So it'll
I
depend,
think
right?
Ahmed.
So they'll play one of the two all rounders, the spinning all rounder, the fast bowling all, and then they'll play the other specialist, right? So if they
Yeah.
play Salman
I
Ali
would even
Agha,
call
then
Noman Ali an all rounder, actually. I mean, I think
no,
that's
no, I
pretty
meant
good.
Amir Jamal and Salman Ali Agha, right? So
Oh,
those
Salman.
two,
Yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
two
I know, I agree with that.
so they'll if they play once if they play the spinning all rounder in Salman Ali Agha, then they'll play the fast bowling. Then they won't play Noman. But if they play Amir Jamal, then they'll play Noman as well and probably drop Mir Hamza or Shaheen or something like that.
No, so you're saying
So
if they play with if they go for Salman Aga, then they'll also have Ahmed Jamal, right? And
yeah,
then
well,
Noman
no,
Ali.
they'll have
Yeah.
no, so they'll have Salman Ali Agha at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have Amir Jamal at 8 then, and then they'll have Naseem and Mir Hamza 9, 10,
Yeah,
and
yes.
Abrar at 11.
So the question is Salman Aga or Noman Ali, right? That is your question, isn't
Technically,
it? Yeah.
technically, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I think it's going to. Saman Aga is going to be a sure shot. In fact, if anything, he's probably your most consistent batter in the Bangladesh series. I don't see them thing. So, as unfortunate that is, so that's 7. And I actually, he has made that 7th spot his own. He plays well with the tail, and he has this impetus where he knows if he needs to get quick runs, he can get them. Or if he needs to stick around a bit longer, he can. So I like Salman Aga. I even like him as a bowler, right? The only issue I have is obviously your spin department. Abrar Ahmed was really good, but like the last time, but he was quite ordinary against Bangladesh. My question is, was the last time against England just beginner's luck because you were a mystery spinner? As mystery spinners tend to be better the first time round, but then the mystery gets solved, and then you become less effective. So that's the question. But I think they're definitely going to play him. It's impossible to drop him after his good record against England in the last series. So he will play. So obviously Shaheen Afridi is not in the team. Obviously, in my opinion, Naseem and Mir Hamza open the bowling. Ahmed Jamal also gives you extra batting cushion at 8, which going. I'm always the last person to pick a bowler based on his batting, but with Pakistan's woeful batting, we need the added insurance at number 8 because our other tailenders, irrespective of what they'll tell you, on social media are not all rounders. Maybe Naseem
And
Shah comes close to at least trying, but let's just
and
call a
it's not like
spade.
Shine is like been in that good a form that you play him, right. So it's not again. I don't think the marginal difference between Amir Jamal's bowling and Shine's bowling is that much that you drop. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very it's a scandalous thing to say for some, but if you look at the record, the recent record, I don't think so. And Amir Jamal was your best bowler in Australia anyway, right? So I think he deserves a chance.
Okay.
So, so yeah, I think
There you go.
that's what it's going to be. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I assume you probably have the same prediction as I do, or
Obviously. The, obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I tend to be, sometimes I tend to be overly optimistic and tend to be overly pessimistic, but I just don't see it, right? You've lost to Bangladesh literally a month, like less than a month ago, with exactly the same team, nearly, right? And now you're
yeah,
playing against England.
and you lost 3-0 to England 2 years ago
Last
with arguably a better team, right, on paper at least, or a more experienced team.
Azhar Ali played, right? And I think that's where the extra experience you could argue was there, but he wasn't in form, right? He was way past his prime. So I think the bigger point is you had a team that was more informed, not experienced, but more informed because you had players like Abdullah Shafiq and even Imam ul Haq at the top of the order who used to get you good starts and we were offered 90, 100 for one or something. So and Babar Azam was also more informed, right? So all these things put together means that it was a better team last time.
Well, your bowling was Wasim Junior, Fahim Ashraf, and those guys. So maybe the bowling was slightly weaker, but
I mean, yeah, I thought bowling is much better now anyway. So let's be
exactly.
honest. So Look, there you go. Exciting cricket ahead. Let's hope that our pessimism is unwarranted and we end up with, a more exciting series. It's definitely going to be exciting. The question is, how close will the end scoreline be? Um, we will be covering that series, so please stay tuned and please subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.